Members will form a quorum, and it's also the appointed time. I call to order meeting of the subcommittee on smart city. Please invite the administration to join us now. The first thing on the agenda is the latest situation or update on the implementation of Smart People initiatives. Please refer to the administration's paper number CB1143/2023-01. Will members who intend to speak please press the request to speak button. So we are mainly on talent today. Was it last week? Well, we visited a secondary school, welcomed government officials to the meeting. Last week, a few members from the subcommittee visited a secondary school to see the how STEAM education was done. Of course, the school was excellent, and it might not be the case in other secondary schools. We have Ms. Wong, Secretary. Thank you, Chair. I will make a brief introduction. In the past 6 months, we have been reporting to this subcommittee the government's Smart City 2.0 on smart mobility, environment, and e-government, and etc. Today, we would like to report to members the last aspect, and that is Smart People initiatives. As we have always pointed out, the Blueprint 2.0 is a living document. From time to time, the government will review and update the initiatives therein to take care of the needs of the times. And I think it's important on Smart People initiatives as well. We must keep abreast with new developments in order to face up to the challenges and the need for INT talent. Some of the measures here were only introduced after the Blueprint 2.0 was launched. As said by the chairman, we visited Shin Kong Hui Bishop Ho Ming Hua Secondary School for a visit. That is Bishop Ho Secondary School. And we could then use various ways for INT education, and there was exchange with students. So members all agree that for curriculum and extracurriculum INT activities, students can build up confidence, team spirit, and all sorts of competencies. Without further ado, I give the floor to the PAS Education Curriculum Support Ms. Yun to brief members on what the administration has done in nurturing INT talents in primary and secondary schools in particular, and how the UGC and also GCC has nurtured and retained talents in Hong Kong. And then INT Bureau will also brief members on what we've been doing in attracting INT talents from overseas. Thank you. When it comes to promotion of STEAM education in Hong Kong, in February, we briefed the Committee on STEAM Education. I would like to brief members on strategies related to the implementation of Smart People initiatives. Now, we follow the guideline of the policy address. We promote STEAM education for all, for fun, and for diversity in primary and secondary schools. There are more and more INT learning elements in the primary and secondary curricula. For instance, we're going to introduce the enriched module on coding education for upper primary level and module on AI for junior secondary level. And we continue to enhance teacher training to enhance the school's leadership in promoting STEAM education. And with the Hong Kong Productivity Council, the Cyberport, etc., we have various thematic seminars to support schools' teacher development efforts. As for support for teachers, every year we set aside $900 million in a form of a life-wide learning grant to encourage students to take part in off-classroom experiential learning activities, including STEAM learning activities. And schools can also apply for under the Quality Education Fund to nurture more students with potential. We have provided an extra $600 million to the Gifted Education Fund to provide more activities that are challenging and of school specific to STEAM-related areas for gifted students. Higher education, we've always encouraged UGC-funded activity universities to provide programs that are STEAM-related to enhance our competitiveness. Our plan is to, within the 5 years, among students enrolled in UGC-funded universities, about 60% of them will enroll in programs related to Hong Kong's position as an international INT hub, as advocated by the 14th Five-Year Plan, and 35% of them should engage in STEAM-related programs. And we will also work with the INT Industry Bureau so that we can nurture STEAM talents to build a smart city. Thank you. Mr. Au. Thank you, Chair and members of the subcommittee. Good afternoon. So the Education Bureau has given us a briefing on initiatives in the education sector. I would like to brief members on measures implemented by the INT Commission. We have stepped up efforts to promote INT development in Hong Kong through various measures. We will cater to the need for manpower in the industry. So we have got 3 ongoing measures. We have got the INT internship scheme, and we have the postdoc, the research talent hub, and also the reindustrialization scheme. The INT internship was the STEM internship scheme was launched for undergraduate and postgraduates taking university full-time STEM-related programs to enroll in short-term internships so as to nurture in them an interest for INT industries. And this will also enrich our talent pool. Every student is entitled to an allowance of $10,500 per month. The internship can take place in Hong Kong or outside Hong Kong, and for duration of 2 to 3 weeks. So far, 8,100 internship positions have been offered, and we have an average of around 1,400 companies or organizations participating. In the 2022 policy address, it is proposed that the scheme be expanded to offer local internship opportunities to students studying STEM programs at Greater Bay Area campuses established by designated local universities. Besides, the 5 government-funded research and development R&D Center and the Hong Kong Productivity Council will offer internship program to STEM students of local and non-local students. Now, for the research talent hub, It provides funding support for organizations or companies undertaking R&D projects funded by I&T Fund, incubatees, and also I&T talents of the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park Corporation. They can employ up to 4 graduates in STEM-related disciplines. Any research person holding a bachelor or master or doctorate degree will be entitled to a monthly allowance of $18,000, $21,000, and $32,000, and for a maximum of 36 months. So far, we have already approved applications from 6,500 applicants, and the total funding amount of $4.1 billion. The policy address has got new measures. Now for we have raised the allowances to $20,000, $23,000 to $35,000 for talents with a bachelor, master, or doctorate degree respectively. And we provide an additional monthly living allowance of $10,000 to research talents with a doctorate degree. And the third scheme is about industrialization and technology training scheme launched in August 2018. It aims to subsidize local enterprises on a 2-to-1 matching basis to train their staff in advanced technologies. Now, they can be trained in areas such as blockchain, AI, and data analysis and internet security, etc. From August 2018 to end of last year, over 7,000 training grant applications have been approved. About 23,000 trainings have been given, and then the total subsidy is up to $240 million. And we also like to attract talents from overseas and the mainland. In 2021, the Bureau launched the Global STEM Professorship Scheme to attract internationally renowned I&T scholars and their teams to come to Hong Kong for research and teaching activities, so that we can scale new heights in I&T research. The quota is 100 scholars. The first 4 batches, we received 230 applications from universities. We've supported over 80 outstanding scholars to come to Hong Kong. As at this month, 38 such scholars have arrived in Hong Kong, with the rest coming to Hong Kong gradually and soon. And then we've also got the Technology Talent Admission Scheme launched in 2018 to admit technology talent from the mainland overseas to work on R&D in Hong Kong. So under the scheme, we approve a quota for an applicant company so as to provide certainty, and it will shorten the visa processing time, and then recruited talent can arrive in Hong Kong earlier. As at end of February, we have already approved 718 quotas. Last December, we have launched enhancement measures. We have extended the quota validity period to 2 years and expanded coverage to 14 technology areas, and we've also lifted the local employment requirement. All these are useful in attracting talents to come to Hong Kong, and we've also got the Inno-Hong Kong research clusters. In the Science Park, we have got 2 clusters, one on Health Inno Hong Kong, the other is called Air Inno Hong Kong. There are 28 laboratories involved, and they have all commenced operation. The purpose is to promote global R&D collaboration. Hopefully, we can attract well-renowned research teams to come to Hong Kong. There are about 2,000 research talents involved. Lastly, I'd like to talk about InnoCell. To attract INT talents. In 2022 policy address, it was announced that more accommodation facilities will be provided. A new inno cell will be built in Science Park, and then we will also have accommodation facilities in the loop, and then hopefully we can have more facilities, accommodation facilities for the development of sentient technopole. Thank you.
All right, so much from the administration. We have 3 members waiting to speak: Mr. Ambrose Lam, Dr. John Ng, and Dr. Wendy Hong. Well, we can allow a more elaborated discussion. We have 10 minutes per member. I'll speak slowly then, Chair. Mr. Ambrose Lam. As I know, the research outcome and the dissertations prepared by universities. Well, Dr. Wendy Hong, would you like to speak first, since you seem to be in a hurry to leave? Please don't take up my time. Yes, please continue. Right, but the research outcomes cannot be translated into applications because they are quite out of touch. So what is the way forward? Last week, an arrangement was made for us to visit the Shin Kong Hui Bishop Hall Secondary Hall so that we learn more about the INT learning in the secondary school. And I am very impressed. I think the future of INT development in Hong Kong is bright. First, secondary school students and basically Form 1 students nowadays start to learn coding and programming at a very early stage. They learn about artificial intelligence. They even learn about coding in the metaverse. And I see that these young people have great interest in the area and they are doing very well. Of course, more importantly, teachers should be the inspiration for students. They should, first of all, have interest in the subject. Say I saw that they started with a project of a smart glass. You're supposed to have a glass of water for the blind, and then when you pour water into the glass, there is a sensor, and then it will stop immediately when it reaches the brim. But the research is interesting, but it's not put to use because the blind have really good hearing. They know when to stop pouring water into the cup. Anyway, I think that not many schools practice STEAM in Hong Kong, and it is no easy task because it's only after the visit that I've learned that it requires a lot of resources and not many teachers are experts in this regard. So my question is about the number of schools promoting STEAM learning with a success, and also about teachers they should take the lead in inspiring students. Do we have a mechanism at a systemic level to train the teaching force? Yes, who will respond to the questions, please? Ms. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lam, for the questions about promoting STEAM education. We promote STEAM both inside and outside classrooms. We have multidisciplinary learning. Say, for example, when considering the design of a product, a student would need to leverage on their knowledge on science, technology, and we have a lot of activities both inside and outside the classroom, as Mr. Lam would have seen in the previous visit. So students will be using the knowledge acquired in classrooms on various subjects such as mathematics, science, physics, biochemistry in designing the product. And we do promote collaboration among different subjects. As a matter of fact, we require schools to appoint a STEAM coordinator to bring forward the collaboration among subjects. Now, as far as the learning or the enhancing the teaching force is concerned, we have a program, and it's the second year we're running this program. And in fact, together with the Cyberport, we launched a new professional development program for STEM coordinators, and we also collaborate with other organizations so that we can build a strong team of STEAM teaching force. In order to have inclusive STEAM education for all schools, we will hold an activity in which schools progressing better in terms of STEAM education can share their experience with other schools. So how many schools have been trained since the launch of your training initiatives? In the previous years, when we started organizing some training programs, we trained the first batch of teachers. We're now proceeding with the second batch. And about the Cyberport collaboration, from the end of 2022 to March, we provided 600 quotas to schools under this professional development program. And we will provide sufficient quotas for all STEAM coordinators of primary and secondary schools to take part in the program. So how many teachers have been trained? We started with middle managers and school principals in the first round. If my memory serves me right, several thousand primary school teachers and secondary school teachers respectively took part in their training program. In other words, at the outset, the majority of schools already received training in promoting STEAM education. And we are working on making a sustained effort in delivering more STEAM training programs. Right. You mentioned school principals and teachers. Is it in the form of a seminar in which the participants learn about your promotion strategy, or is it that they will know more about what STEAM subject to choose to teach to help them acquire first-hand knowledge? We have different training courses. We have a STEAM standing committee, and as discussed by the committee, there should be a change in the mindset of STEAM teachers. In the past, teachers taught individual science and mathematics subjects. Now we need multidisciplinary collaboration. So in the training programs, we remind teachers of the need for collaboration, and in the process, we also need to provide students with hands-on activities. So we have not only seminars, but also practical activities, so that we present a dynamic picture to schools about STEAM education. Next, Dr. Johnny Ng. This paper is about smart people initiatives. You speak at length about these initiatives and the government's policy on supporting talents and recruiting talents. Now I have a number of questions. First, about Research Talent Hub. I understand that you have the postdoctoral hub schemes, etc., and you support enterprises in recruiting research talents with a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, and subsidies are provided. Basically, only enterprises in the Cyberport and the HKSTP will benefit from this scheme. What about other avenues for enterprises which have not set up their bases in these two places? If the answer is in the negative, why is it that we are neglecting the other enterprises that have been supporting the R&D development in Hong Kong, albeit not in Cyberport or in Science Park? Next, 6,500 applications for research talents have been approved, involving a total funding amount of about $4.1 billion. That's quite a big sum. Do you keep statistics about, or do you keep track of the research outcome of these research talents after approving this total funding of about $4.1 billion? How does it present itself in the form of tax or otherwise? If you haven't kept the statistics, will you do so in the future? Another question. I asked a written question the previous week, and the ITIB gave me a reply. I understand from the Secretary's reply that since it involves an important topic involving civic rights and obligations, taxation matters, etc., further assessment will be needed. Well, for this tax financing scheme, it has been in place for in other countries for many years. So for these individuals, I know more about the details of the assessment, since they shouldn't pose too much a social burden in terms of medical and social benefits. These are just taxpayers. Mr. Au? Thank you, Dr. Ng, for the questions. First, about Research Talent Hub, RTH scheme. Well, it comprises two former programs, the Researcher Program and Postdoctoral Hub schemes, and it provides funding support for organizations undertaking R&D projects funded by the ITF, and also startups and enterprises in the Hong Kong STPC and the Cyberport, as well as other tech companies outside these two parks. 93 companies have already received a grant in the past 4 years. That's for the first question. Second, about the effectiveness of the scheme. The objective of the scheme is to train talents. So our focus is on whether these talents will continue with the I&T research, and in 2020 we conducted a questionnaire survey. Well, these research talents may be those with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree undertaking R&D activities. It comes with a wide range. Some of them may not be too experienced, and yet we want to give them an opportunity and encourage enterprises to keep them in employment. And later on, according to the questionnaire survey, 97% of respondents said that they would remain in the R&D field, and about 70% of respondents have secured a job in R&D after conclusion of the scheme. We'll continue to keep in view the situation. For example, in this year's policy address, the monthly allowance level will be increased by about 10% as an incentive to further encourage enterprises to recruit talents. Now, we understand that the competition for talents around the world is keen, especially those with a doctoral degree. We are providing an additional monthly living allowance of $10,000 to them.
Thank you. Now, our focus is to compete for talents and enterprises. So we will not focus on e-citizens for the time being. Now, I have nothing more to add. Any other questions? Not really. Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got 2 questions regarding the Enrich program, enriched module on coding education for upper primary level and module on AI for junior secondary level. I'd like to know the lesson hours. Although some say that it should be mandatory, but I'm worried about adding to the workload of students. And you only support STEM-related students in the INT program. And I think some other students are also interested, and they may join the INT industry in the future. But the scheme would only subsidize STEM students enrolled in STEM-related programs. I'm afraid that may affect non-STEM students in learning about STEM. So can you relax the criteria of STEM internship scheme so that STEM-related students can also learn about possible opportunities in INT? Thank you. We have the enriched module on coding education for upper primary level. We did not start from scratch. In the year 2000, we have guidelines for schools on coding education, but we have introduced an enriched module this year. We expect that every year there will be 10 to 14 teaching hours in P4, P5, P6 respectively, and for the model on AI on junior secondary level, again it is also an enriched program. Hopefully it can be extended to all schools. And we will provide teacher training as well so that teachers can better understand the rationale and also the teaching strategies. Thank you, Dr. Hong. With regard to the STEM internship scheme, we do understand that the definition of STEM-related programs will go by the definition made by the University Grants Committee. But for programs with some STEM elements such as quantity finance, fintech, and also digital mathematics, for instance. So if we include such programs, there are over 380 programs eligible, and about 48,000 students are potential candidates of the scheme. Hopefully, we can allow students not enrolled in purely STEM-related programs, but if they have an element of STEM in the programs they enroll in, then that's okay. Now, for the coding education for upper primary level, some suggested that it should be a compulsory subject. Is it good or not? I don't know about the pros and cons of making it a mandatory subject. With regard to coding education and AI, both modules are in science-related curriculum, so it is compulsory. Yes, it is part of our core learning areas. It's just that we have enriched and updated the curricula, and we also want that to be implemented in all schools. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chair. The paper is on update on the implementation of smart people initiatives. I thought it was in response to the point we brought up in the last meeting. This is not about what the government wants people to do, but rather what people want the government to do in order we can implement Smart City 3.0. All right, the content of the paper is about training and attracting and grooming INT talents. Now, since we are on this subject, I would like to ask about the effectiveness of your initiatives. In June 2020, there is already the STEM internship program launched to support undergraduates and postgraduates, university full-time STEM-related programs, students, so that they can have short-term internships in relevant companies. According to the paper, as at end December last year, over 8,100 internship positions have been provided. That's quite considerable, and on average, around 1,400 companies and organizations have joined the scheme. All right, the scheme has been run for a few years. I'd like to know whether there has been any review done on the matching of students and companies, for instance, and the feedback from students after taking part in the scheme, so that you can enhance the scheme itself. And the second question is related to Dr. Johnny Ng's. In 2022 policy address, there were 2 enhancement proposals to enhance our research talent hub and also our scheme to attract talents. So 6,500 persons have been appointed, and then $4 billion been spent on that. We would like to know the effectiveness of the programs. According to the administration, about 97% of the participants claimed that they would stay on in Hong Kong, and 70% of them had already started careers in this area. Now we need other indicators. Since we have spent money on that, we want to retain the talents. We want companies to participate. So do we have other indicators? Apart from the number of trainees that have stayed behind, now we want to attract top-notch and high-value added enterprises and talents to Hong Kong. So do you have other indicators, for instance, tax paid by these companies? According to the administration, they have yet to collect such statistics. Can this be done? Because it's important. So we know after spending the money, we know the number of talents who have stayed behind, and then we can also quantify the effectiveness of the scheme by means of taxes levied. In June 2020, we started a pilot scheme of the STEM internship scheme, and it was regularized in 2022. It has been operated for a few years, but we have tried to understand the views of participating students and employers. According to students that have taken part in the scheme, over 90% of them would consider joining the INT sector after graduation. The response from companies was even more encouraging. Almost all of them were very satisfied with the performance of participating students. We will see how the scheme can be further enhanced. In last year's policy address, we said that next time we are going to extend the coverage to include students studying STEM programs at GBA area campuses established by designated local universities. And we will also use our government-funded R&D centers and the Hong Kong Productivity Council to offer scholarship programs to STEM students of local and non-local universities. They can be Hong Kong citizens who are studying overseas. They can come back in the summer to join an internship program so that after graduation they can return to Hong Kong. So much so for the STEM internship scheme. As for the Research Talent Hub, the member is interested in the outcome of the scheme. In the past 4 years, we have 3 types of projects, INT-related fund projects, and the other are involved companies. Most R&D activities take time to yield results. For instance, we have supported some projects in the past. Well, many successful R&D projects take time to yield results. So we will see whether they can complete their targets set at the point of application. It will be more than 1 or 2 years before the R&D can be successful. I agree that we should follow up, and we will see how we can have a better evaluation. As mentioned by Mr. Chen, after all, we have invested quite substantially, and I believe participating companies and organizations are willing to share such resources with us. They thank members for your support because a lot of resources have been approved, and then we will gauge their progress. In due course, we can report to the council. That's all from me. Thank you. Second question. Yes, you can go on. We have time. I am interested in accommodation facilities for INT talents. It is announced in the 2022 policy address that more accommodation facilities will be provided, including the development of a new InnoCell near Science Park. Will that be restricted to the Science Park or the Sentin Technopole? Now, compared with our competitors, whether we are talking about Shenzhen or cities in the GBA, for young people who are interested in the INT field, you can see from their websites that they are very aggressive. So long as you're in the INT sector and if you can fulfill their requirements, you can have all sorts of supporting facilities, including accommodation, office space, and business partners, etc. Hong Kong is a small place. It's difficult to provide accommodation. 1 or 2 InnoCells may not be able to fulfill the needs of talents. So, apart from the accommodation facilities to be offered in Science Park and at Sentin Technopole, will there be other supporting facilities as well?
多謝主席，多謝陳議員嘅提問。
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Chan, for the questions. First, about InnoCell in Hong Kong STP. At the moment, the InnoCell there provides 500 units apart from employees of or enterprises in the Science and Technology Park, those who take part in certain activities, research activities in the park, including those coming from overseas, can also use the InnoCell. And the government has invited the park to consider providing another InnoCell in the park and also in the Loop. That is a Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation Technology Park. An InnoCell will also be developed. The first block should be completed by the end of 2024. Meanwhile, we're also reviewing the planning of Sun Tin Technopole and see whether flexibility can be given to providing an InnoCell there. Mr. Chan just now pointed out that apart from Troll for Talents, Hong Kong is also facing the challenge of shortage of housing. So through development of InnoCells and the development of accommodation of Sun Tin Technopole, will strive to provide more in this area. And we also provide a living allowance of up to $10,000 to postdoctoral degree holders undertaking R&D in the facilities. For the $10,000 allowance, there is no need to give us an account of how money is spent. It can be used on accommodation as well. And in any event, we'll strive to roll out measures to help Hong Kong meet the challenge brought about by fierce competition for talents around the world, when we'll continue to review the situation and see if further measures should be rolled out in this regard. Mr. Yo Pak Leung. The paper is titled "The Update on the Implementation of Smart People Initiatives." Just by reading the title, I thought that the paper would be about how Hong Kong citizens will have a better grasp of the use of technology, and also for enterprises, how they can leverage on I&T to upgrade and transform the business. That's my first impression, but it seems that the paper is silent on these matters. Instead, the paper refers to grooming STEAM talents, and with an emphasis on the Education Bureau's efforts in grooming STEAM talents since young, and enhancing the capacity of the teaching force through enhanced training so that we have a sufficient number of teachers in STEAM. I did not visit that secondary school last week, but previously we visited Wong Shaw Bill or Bill Wong Primary School, and I understand that in terms of STEAM education, the school is doing very well, and I'd like to acknowledge the Education Bureau's efforts in this regard. As for the I&T Commission, I see money dish out millions and billions, in fact, some $40 billion to support research talents, with the objective of attracting research talents from overseas as well as grooming local talents. Now, I want to know from the ITC whether there are measures to help the general public. Say, for example, before Hong Kong citizens cross the boundary, they are required to make a health declaration. It comes in the form of a black coat, and some people find it very difficult to prepare this health code. So it's just like promoting sports in the community. In order to have elite, in order to support the development of elite sports, you also need to support the development of sports in the community. Likewise, for technology, you need to promote the use of INT in the community for further development of the industry in general. So I'd like to know whether the Commission has any new plans in this regard. Just like the tourism industry, it is a pillar industry in Hong Kong, but it's facing a lot of difficulty. So is there something like a technology voucher for our industry to help businesses upgrade and transform and support the development of talents? Tony. Chair, I thank Mr. Yu for his comments. Mr. Lam and Mr. Yu also made similar comments. These comments are noted. In the paper, we explain our strategies in promoting STEAM education and how we attract high-end research talents to come to Hong Kong. We promote STEAM education for all because we'd like primary and secondary school students to adopt the mindset of innovation when they are still in school. And then for students with caliber and aspiration, they can then choose to further their studies in STEAM subjects and join the STEAM sector. If we build a good foundation in primary and secondary schools, if students are becoming innovative, no matter the subject they choose in their future studies, they will be innovative in troubleshooting. So that's about promoting STEAM education for all. I also agree with the member. At present, further collaboration between different industries and the government is required to enhance practitioners' knowledge on STEAM, and more targeted measures can be devised. For example, the OGO works with some elderly care organizations, say in elderly centers, to enhance INT training for elderly. This may be about day-to-day application of INT, so they have this standing collaboration. On promoting STEM education, last year in promulgating the INT development blueprint in Hong Kong, there is a dedicated chapter. In other words, the government collaborates with organizations and organizes activities together and advises the organizations on the use of INT. This is an ongoing initiative, and we also put our heads together with the industry in making a joint effort to promote the upgrading and transformation of the relevant industries. Thank you. I'm reading from paragraph 21 of the paper. You have the Reindustrialization and Technology Training Program, RTTP. It is a good initiative, but I see that this is a program for the manufacturing industry. Is there any program for, say, services industries, say how they can make use of technology to enhance the service quality and help upgrade the upgrading and transformation of our enterprises, at least for the more capable ones? That's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Yu. Yes, can look into possible targeted measures. Mr. Andrew Lam. In order to promote INT, talent is a prerequisite. I'm reading from the paper and I'm delighted to see paragraph 12 because if we are to attract research talents, we need to attract a whole team of research talents to come. Now, I'm a football fan. And I always like to quote this example. We don't want just a single coach. We want a team of coaches. In order to speed things up, we need to make sure we attract the whole team. So about paragraph 12, in attracting research talents to come to Hong Kong, the government has been making an effort, and so far 80 scholars have been included in the scheme, but it seems that you are targeting only those in universities. I do feel that since we are trawling for enterprises as well, you should extend the scheme to cover some top-notch enterprises as well. So that's the first point. Second, as I came in just now, Mr. Chan Sil-hung was asking about the supporting measures. In my experience, the original design of the park might include accommodation, but as a matter of standing policy, you would often encourage the practitioners to find accommodation outside, and this poses an obstacle. If we are to attract top-notch enterprises to come, they may have their own considerations in meeting the needs of accommodation needs of their staff. So in the future parks, you should also consider including accommodation in the design. Who will take the question, please? Yes. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the member's question about the Global STEM Professorship Scheme. The objective is to attract the world-renowned research individuals and scholars to take part in R&D in universities, and that's the objective of the scheme. As for other enterprises and their talents, as mentioned just now, we provide a subsidy under the Research Talent Hub. Say for a researcher with a doctoral degree, he receives up to $32,000 of subsidy for a maximum of 3 years, and we allow up to 4 such research individuals per one company. So that's more than $100,000 of subsidy per enterprise. And then starting April this year, an additional monthly living allowance of $10,000 will be given to research talents with a doctoral degree under the scheme so as to help them pay for expenses. We believe this will help increase the attractiveness for talents to come to Hong Kong. I'm sorry, perhaps I didn't make myself clear. Let me interject. Let me repeat the question. You mentioned the other subsidy scheme, but the scheme is applies to individual applications. Say if we want to target a certain company with a research team of 12 members, should you vet each of the 12 applications individually or as a team? I just want to know whether the same arrangements can be extended to research talents in enterprises as well. The Global STEM Professorship Scheme targets professors and research talents in universities. As for research teams, they should come under the Research Talent Hub scheme, and up to 4 such researchers can receive subsidy per enterprise. As far as research talents in universities are concerned, as I know, apart from government subsidy, the university also set aside resources for the purpose of keeping these talents. For example, the Hong Kong Jockey Club is one of the donors. So we have, say, the Jockey Club, the government, and also the universities all chipping in. As for research teams, We provide support in the form of subsidies under the Research Talent Hub. That is for a professor, up to $4 million can be given to bring in a team of 4 researchers with a bachelor's degree.
咁至於或者我再補充啦，
Perhaps I did not make myself clear. I think the member might be thinking about strategic companies with a team of not only 4 but 40, for instance. So the INTIB is thinking about this. I understand that when attracting top-notch enterprises, they will discuss with them once again. Of course, there are existing schemes. Then there can be adjustment based on the needs. We want to draw for enterprises. We do understand that we can subsidize ordinary research teams by providing a quota of 4, but for strategic companies, I think it will be for the ITIB to consider. Tony, well, I think members are concerned as to how we can attract the whole research team to Hong Kong. So under ITIB, in order to dovetail our efforts for attracting strategic enterprises, they have been approaching high-tech companies. They will have a tailor-made arrangement. You might have heard that some life and health technology companies will domicile in Hong Kong, and there was also MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, signed. That is the outcome of our efforts, and the whole company will come as a team. We have a few targeted technology areas where we think Hong Kong has some edge, and we'll talk about life technology, AI, data analytics, advanced manufacturing. In the INT development blueprint, we have chosen 3 important areas, and we will focus in these 3 areas in attracting strategic enterprises. In the newly announced budget, there is funding reserved for assisting universities and research institutions to carry out cross-institutional and multidisciplinary R&D activities. For instance, for life technology, $6 billion has been set aside. This is to support universities and research institutions to cover the needs of the whole research team. For AI and other advanced technology, we have got $3 billion for breakthroughs in research. This can be used for supporting international research projects. Hopefully, we can attract top-notch research teams to Hong Kong. We've also got the Microelectronic R&D Institute. Hopefully, we can have resources in Hong Kong to develop our microelectronics R&D development or activities. Thank you. I still have one more question not answered. For the design of our science parks and research parks, I agree. In 2020, the first InnoCell was completed a science park. We understand that we do not just provide laboratory for R&D activities. It's more than identifying funds for them. InnoCell is here with various activities. There can be brainstorming and exchange of ideas. At the Loop Science and Innovation and Technology Park, we will have another InnoCell, and when we take forward similar facilities like the Science Park, we will take this into account. In answering the members' question, I agreed that we may not be able to fully resolve the accommodation needs of the research talents, but we will also provide InnoCell and subsidies, and then hopefully they can find their own accommodation elsewhere. We will provide InnoCell and similar facilities using different ways and means. I hope we can do a better job. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chair. I'm so pleased that we have someone from the Education Bureau to answer questions in relation to INT education. In paragraph 4 of the paper, we know that there will be INT learning for our students, but we're only talking about enriching the related learning contents of science and technology in the existing primary general studies curriculum. But this is not what we want. We want science and technology to be taken out from the general studies curriculum in the primary level. We want to make it an independent subject. We want popular STEM or science education to be an independent subject so that we can nurture INT talents. According to the paper, they have got pilot schemes, etc. I'd like to know the government's plan to really make it regular. Can we be given a clear roadmap and timetable? Although you are introducing R&D talents to universities, and 30% of the programs are STEAM related, but if the curricula are not improved, then we can't really nurture INT talents. Now in senior education, we have got physics, chemistry, and biology. The percentage of candidates taking this subject account for less than 0.69%, while you're offering these subjects. Students in the science stream may not necessarily take similar programs when they go to universities, and if they are not equipped with such knowledge at the secondary level, it would be very difficult for them at the university level. I understand that many of them have to take tutorial classes, etc., to make up for the gap in knowledge. Are you going to review your DSE structure so that more students will take science subjects? If we have more students taking science subjects at the secondary level, then we will have more talents in the university level. The member mentioned the pilot scheme on enhancing science and technology learning at upper primary level. It only started this year. We are exploring the possibility of making science and technology an independent subject. In fact, in the current general studies curriculum, we have a lot of such contents already. If the subject is to be a standalone one, then we have to enrich the curriculum. So, teachers will first try out the enriched curriculum. they will introduce hands-on and a mind-on activity. Now we will try to take stock from our pilot scheme, and then we will explore the feasibility of making science and technology an independent subject. And the question on encouraging more senior secondary students to take mathematics and science-related subjects. Yes, this is also our wish, so that they can lay a solid foundation for taking STEAM and INT programs in universities. Last year, we improved our senior secondary curricula. Now, for students who took science and mathematics in senior secondary, now the number of students has been increasing. While we enhanced STEAM education, we hope that more students will be interested and motivated to take INT-related subjects. Any follow-up, please? Not really. I hope the administration can implement general science and technology curriculum in primary school as soon as possible, because time and tide waits for no man, and if we do not catch up now, it will be too late. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you. Para 21 of the paper has this heading, Supporting Young Entrepreneurs and Startups, when in fact only the Reindustrialization and Technology Training Program was mentioned. It was launched in 2018, and on a 2-to-1 matching basis, companies are subsidized to train their staff in advanced technologies. And areas applicable include blockchain, AI, data analysis, and internet security, etc. $240 million have been spent, and 7,218 training grant applications were approved to receive about 22,800 trainings. The figures look substantial, but our concern is the effectiveness of the scheme. $240 million that will be government spending, and together with the portion spent by enterprises, the total spending is $360 billion. I'd like to know what is the effect of the scheme. Have we been able to promote the development of advanced manufacturing industries? Have we helped the transformation of traditional manufacturing industries? Thank you. We invited the Vocational Training College to design the programs. VTC is also the secretariat. They have an INT training committee under the Hong Kong Productivity Council. The committee has got representatives from different organizations and the business sector. They will be able to consider whether the training programs can help the industries. That is how the scheme operates. They will confirm whether programs can be incorporated into the training scheme. So if companies would like to join the program, subsidies can be provided. So we have a committee comprising representatives from the various industries, and then companies can make applications. If they're successful, they get subsidies. We have applications from a wide range of industries. Professionals, for instance, advanced manufacturing sector, for instance, and even hotels, service or management services, catering and tourism. They've all been successful. So the scope is never too narrow. We adopt a flexible approach, and we may not be as familiar with the needs of the market as people from these sectors, but we are happy to refine the program to make it better.
Now, I think it's a good initiative because instead of having the scheme fully funded by the government, we have a matching scheme. Otherwise, it may not be effective in the end. For this scheme, the enterprise concerned will have to chip in as well. So there are cost implications. They need to be careful as well. Second, I think enterprises are in a better position to know their needs. So I think the matching scheme is appropriate. And I also like to say that training is a good start. It is necessary. We need to equip staff with the knowledge so that when they know more about what they need, they can then map out their strategy in the next step. But my experience tells me that the government can also run some kind of workshop through organizations such as the Hong Kong Productivity Council. After equipping the employees of enterprises with the knowledge, they need to make sure that results are yielded in the next step, and this is where the intermediaries can be engaged, so that a further step will be taken to ensure effectiveness. Otherwise, I question its effective implementation. The Hong Kong I&T Development Blueprint maps out very clearly the directions we should follow. But as far as the next step is concerned, the government can also have a role to play in this regard. Yes, we agree. We note this comment, and in the future, when we consider the way forward, we will consider how we can ensure effective implementation. Tony, we thank Mr. Chan for the suggestion. In fact, in this budget, there are targeted measures to help SMEs. Like the member said, training opportunities are given to employers and employees alike, but after they've acquired knowledge, the next important step is to help them undergo digital transformation. Now, as far as government resources are concerned, we have, say, the technology voucher. Enterprises can make use of the funding available to engage a consultant in the process. In this year's budget, we are targeting some enterprises which are unsure of their needs. So we're working at the front end. $500 million will be set aside, and the Cyberport will be providing assistance to SMEs. The Financial Secretary also leads the Digital Economy Development Committee, and in a subcommittee, there is a targeted discussion on helping SMEs undergo digital transformation. $500 million have been set aside to help them. In a targeted way, we first help them find off-the-shelf solutions. That means they just need to procure the product and apply it as a first step. And for these enterprises, after they have had a taste of digital transformation, if need be, they can apply for further funding and further assistance on digital transformation. Thank you. Right, my turn. We are all concerned about the overall I&T development in Hong Kong, especially since our objective is to develop Hong Kong into an international I&T hub. So I understand when it comes to smart people initiatives, the government is placing the focus on trawling for talents. Apart from recruiting and attracting and grooming talents, we should also place more emphasis on our people. And I think that we are all concerned about the digital gap. We want to make sure that all citizens can enjoy the fruit of digital development. And over a decade, the OGO has been sparing no effort in promoting digital inclusion, especially for elderly people to enjoy the benefits of using technology as well. Now, for some elderly people in Hong Kong, they do not have a mobile smartphone, and they're unable to cross the boundary because they don't know how to prepare the Black Health Code. And as a result, we see a line of citizens outside our ward offices as members of the council, as we receive inquiries from the public. So that's what the digital gap is about. For the aged, they may find themselves more difficult to adapt to the new era when they use new technologies. So we need to work harder. We're going to set up care teams very soon. We should consider how we can leverage on the district network and help members of the public use technology. Are there measures to help, say, the grassroots elderly people who don't even have a mobile phone? So that's food for thought. Coming back to the point on talents, my question is whether you have looked into the demand and supply of talents. In fact, across the sector, the common refrain is that there is a short of hands. Some say by 7,000, some say by 10,000. But apart from I&T talents, we also have a shortage of manpower in general. So you need to have a proper grasp of demand and supply of manpower before you can draw up proper policies. Do you have any study in this regard? How many hands are we short by? Since you have a talent list, you will be attracting talents to come. And it includes 14 technology areas. I suppose these are technology areas in which the manpower shortage is the most serious. So are there ways to make sure we can attract sufficient talent to replenish the workforce? I look forward to some figures as well. On grooming talents in secondary and primary schools, Mr. Dennis Leung and I have been making the same remark since the start of our term. We grasp every opportunity to hammer home this message. In many cities in the mainland, coding, AI are compulsory subjects, and the education starts at a very early stage. Whereas for primary schools in Hong Kong, these are elective modules, and it's up to schools to decide whether these subjects should be taught. Now, the government always talks about pilot, but for how long will the pilot last, and when will the government make up its mind so that students can acquire the basic knowledge of I&T? We must start young, otherwise they may have insufficient exposure. They may not have built a broad enough horizon, and that will account for another digital gap. And that means the gap between students, between schools. Last week we visited a school. It was so impressive. Everybody gave a round of applause. But how many schools in Hong Kong have done so well in STEAM education? Do you have any figures to tell me about those better performing ones? And you explained that you'd like to have some schools setting a good example and lead other schools in the development of STEAM education. How many schools are we talking about, and what level are we talking about? If we are doing it too slowly, some students may be deprived of the learning opportunities. It will be unfair to them. So, do you have a plan? As we've always talked about the combination of education, innovation, technology, and talents. We can't develop ourselves into an international I&T hub when we are lagging so far behind in terms of group nurturing talents. So, what is your strategy in terms of nurturing talents at an early stage and also helping citizens adopt innovation technology? Thank you, Chair. You made 3 valid comments, and first on addressing digital gap. Over the years, as Chair just explained, we have been making a lot of effort, and I thank members for your support. For our next step, we'd like to forge a closer tie with community groups so as to leverage on the network and provide assistance to members of the public in the form of workshops, etc. As for target groups such as the elderly, I already explained that we do have a standing program. We will enhance our efforts in this regard. We'd like to mobilize the community as well, so we will enhance our liaison with community groups so that our promotional effort can reach different communities. And once again, I appeal to members to support our initiative in promoting STEAM for all. I'll see if the Education Bureau has anything to add, and then the Commissioner can also explain to you the relevant measures in nurturing I&T talents. About STEAM education, we cultivate students' interest in I&T, but it's not just about hobby classes. We have STEAM learning both inside and outside classroom, and these activities complement each other. As for the enhanced module on coding education for upper primary level and module on artificial intelligence for junior secondary level, these are enrichment courses. In fact, many schools are already providing coding and AI education. Recently, according to a survey, 98% of primary schools have implemented coding education. 70 to 80% of secondary schools have included elements of artificial intelligence and I&T in their curriculum. Now, with these 2 enriched programs, there'll be a stronger emphasis on I&T and STEM education in schools. Right, you say that these are already in place. But does it mean that it's compulsory for all students to take this module? Because some schools may have this module in name, but they may not have encouraged students to take the course. So I want to make sure all students will take this course. About coding education and AI, I just want to say that when schools are not beginning from scratch, these are enrichment modules. At the same time, we enhance teacher training to support the implementation. And we also have performance indicators. In the first half of this year, the modules will be rolled out progressively, coupled with training for teachers for them to better grasp the teaching and learning methods. And the key performance indicator is that by 2024-25 school year, the majority of schools will have implemented the module, which is in line with the objective of promoting INT learning. I don't think this is specific enough. I want to know exactly how many students will have the chance of taking STEM education. That is, you talk about coding and AI. These are enriched modules. And then in 2024-24, the majority of schools will have implemented the modules. Can you explain to me, do you have KPIs to explain, say by 2024-25, in percentage terms, how many primary and secondary schools and how many students will be taking these two courses?
It is a module in the curriculum, so we require schools to implement the module. Now we have to look at the quantity as well as the quality. We provide different support to schools. We have school-based support services. And when we inspect schools, we will understand their condition and give appropriate advice. Our intention is to promote INT learning in schools. Of course, all these are very good initiatives. You did not introduce it in schools, claiming there was insufficient teachers and teachers had no knowledge how to do it. At long last, you have got training for teachers. And we asked you that it is something necessary. Still, I'd like to know your target. For instance, do you have any plan? So much so that by a certain year, all primary students will have an opportunity to learn coding and AI. Well, we have short, medium and long-term KPIs. The policy address mentioned that 3/4 of publicly funded primary schools will implement INT modules. Well, implementation is not the same as the number of students that can take the module. So we do not just quantify the KPI. In teacher training, we have successful cases of schools for sharing and to serve as reference for other schools. Because schools have a different starting point, some are more advanced than others. The intention is to expand those successful cases to other schools so that we can have INT learning for all. And the most important thing is students can learn it successfully. Well, at least each student should be given the opportunity to come to contact with coding education and AI. Of course, not every student can learn the subject well, but if they don't even have the opportunity, then it's pointless. Yes, the peers is very skillful in answering questions, but I don't think you have addressed my concern. Now, we require that to be included in the curriculum. How many teaching hours? Well, there should be 10 to 14 hours per year for upper primary level, and junior secondary level, a dozen or so hours per year. We require schools to build in this element in their teaching. That means by 24-25, all upper primary level, all schools should provide 10 to 14 hours of coding and AI teaching for upper primary students. This is our target. If that is successful, then it would be the case, right? Yes. Mr. Dennis Low. Tony, yes, please. Now, the ITIB issue, the INT development blueprint. Our target is we will have no less than 10,000 employees in the INT sector by 2030. And at present, we have about 47,000 employees working in the INT sector. 100,000, when is the target date? By 2030. That is, by 2030, we will have no less than 100,000 people working in the INT sector. What about now? In 2021, we had about 46,700. 46,700. But do you have any information on the shortage now? I don't have the information with me now. I can provide it to members afterwards. We need to know the manpower shortage because that will be a clear indicator for the sector, so the INT talents will come knowing the manpower gap here. According to the Deputy Commissioner, our target is to be no less than that figure. We are creating the demand for INT talents. If our blueprint is successful, we are then creating the demand for manpower. We've also got measures to attract enterprises and talents. And we have various measures to nurture INT talents in universities and also among postgraduate students. So that's the scenario. If you ask us, the current practitioners in the sector, we may not be able to give you a figure because sometimes it is a chicken and egg issue. For instance, we may want to undergo digital transformation. If I cannot find the right people to do it for me, then I have to delay the project. And so the demand is not there. So we have to promote our pace of development. Meanwhile, we will generate demand and will attract INT talents to Hong Kong. We should also nurture our own. Then gradually, we have the basis for developing Hong Kong as an international INT hub. Yes, this is really a chicken and egg issue. We want to develop INT, and then the sector is telling us they can't do it without talents. I think all sectors will have manpower survey from time to time to forecast the manpower demand and also the current position. I don't think we have gotten any scientific or systematic survey analysis. So we are feeling in the midst. We know we are short of manpower because different sectors, even banks, are telling us that they don't have enough manpower. And we can see the rise in pay. As regards how we can exactly work out the shortage, nobody is able to tell us. We want to this government to have good governance. I think we must have a more scientific survey and research to find out the answer. You may have to identify resources to carry out a survey, to carry out a tracking survey, so we know the real manpower shortage in this sector. Well, we can think about that, Chairman. Mr. Dennis Leung, you made a very important point. Are we talking about an interest class or a real curriculum? According to the Education Bureau, many primary students are learning coding. it sounds very rosy. Now, I also teach coding in secondary school, but then when we learned coding, we learned the language, we learned the program language. But about a decade ago, the whole coding education was transformed. Now students learn building blocks. MIT developed a program to teach coding, but it operates like an interest class. Do students really acquire the concept of coding? Will students be able to work as programmers in the future? This is not what they get from the current education. So you have to be specific. What is the depth and the nature of coding education so we know the future direction? Now, Chair, you mentioned the quantity and quality. How do we evaluate the effectiveness of coding education? And now we're talking about liberal arts education. People are trained to be generalists, but we have never considered how we can train specialists. I'm not negating the significance of liberal arts education, because it is a way to help our young people so that there can be associations in their brain, so that they have stronger abilities in terms of creativity and analytical skills. So we need generalist education. Otherwise, we don't have any direction. I hope from the perspective of the Education Bureau, we should see how liberal arts education can collaborate with specialist education so that we can train our own INT talents. If we don't train enough of such talents in Hong Kong, then I'm afraid we cannot attain the target set in the blueprint. That is no less than 100,000 practitioners by 2030. Now, if someone is working in the INT hub, then if everyone serving in such a company is regarded in the INT sector, then it can be a joke. Can the cleaning lady, can the receptionist be regarded as in the INT sector? You must be more specific in your targets and indicators. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leung, for your comments on coding education. Coding is one of the elements of STEAM education. The purpose of coding is to promote creativity among students so that students can use different areas of education, of knowledge for problem solving. We have seen project development activities in schools. Students are using their science and mathematics knowledge to come up with solutions to improve people's living. So our intention is not to train our students to become programmers. Through INT education, we want to enhance students' interest so that from the transition from primary to secondary to university education, they can receive STEAM education. As for the training of specialists, in primary and secondary schools, we want to nurture our talents. For gifted children, with a flair in INT, they will receive enhanced education. We have the Gifted Education Fund to enhance training for students so that they can have in-depth educational opportunities to unleash their potential. I'd like to follow up. Mr. Dennis Leung mentioned the reduction in number of students taking physics, mathematics, and chemistry and biology.
I also talked to some university professors, and according to them, at the university level, enrollment is an issue for some STEM subjects. And even if there is sufficient enrollment, many STEM students at the university level have not had a solid foundation because they did not study STEM subjects such as mathematics, and we have the new senior. We have the 3344 university admission requirement, and the system is such that there is a lack of incentive for senior secondary students to take these subjects, and this is an obstacle for our further nurturing of talents. This also poses a lot of challenges for the universities. We have a very clear objective. We should develop ourselves into an international INT hub, and we should nurture talents to support the country's development. If this is the common objective, then have you ever considered coming up with ways to address the issue? Should we have a reform of the system at the university level? Thank you for the question. We are working in this direction, especially to encourage secondary students to take mathematics, as engineering, technology subjects, etc. But of course, the students must first have an interest in these subjects. Say, we have actually registered an increase in students taking the 3 subjects, STEM-related subjects. Mathematics, the extended program is also very important, and we have been promoting STEM education. And in schools, when we've built an atmosphere and encouraging environment, we're confident that more students will be taking the subjects. Then can you give us a supplementary paper in writing about the number of students taking physics, chemistry, biology, all the 3 subjects, or at least students taking any of these subjects, so that we have an overview of the situation in the coming year? Now, we should start cultivate students' interest in STEM subjects at an early age. And according to many parents, the education system in Hong Kong has an impact on the subjects students choose in the future. Do we have sufficient students to support the country's development? Now, in this regard, teachers should have a better understanding of the INT development in Hong Kong, and teachers should also understand how this is related to the area of teaching. So we need to work on teacher training. The other point is we need to work on parents as well. some parents may not have a clear idea about the future prospects of STEM subjects. They may still opt for traditional professions such as lawyers and doctors. So we'll work on educating parents as well. But will you consider the university admission criteria, the 3344, whether it's possible to tweak it? We have a liaison mechanism with universities on student admission. Take mathematics as an example. There is now a greater recognition of the extended portion of mathematics, and many more students are taking up this course at the same time. We believe that this is how students will find the subject more attractive. So we'll continue to liaise with universities for more students to take the relevant subjects. Now, in this day and age, we talk about enhancing speed and efficiency, quantity, quality. I don't think it's sufficient to just stay put. You need to look into the problem more comprehensively, because otherwise you may not be able to resolve the problems. Well, of course, if all of a sudden more students have become interested in these subjects, then that's a good thing. But otherwise, I don't think we're keeping abreast with our times. Tony, this is exactly what I want to supplement, and I agree with you, Chair. If we are to promote high-quality development and develop Hong Kong into an international I&T hub, we need more students to take part in research and I&T. And as mentioned just now, and as pointed out in this policy address, the government has introduced a lot of initiatives to trial for talents and provided support for universities to undertake R&D activities. In other words, the universities will be attracting top-notch research individuals and teams from other places to come to Hong Kong to expand our R&D capability. This is something we've always longed for. We support the trial for talents because if we are able to do that, we'll be able to attract more talents. In order to develop I&T, talents is a prerequisite, and a lot of quality jobs can be created. There is a lot of potential. Apart from attracting talents from outside, we want to give more opportunities to our young people so that local youths can become an impetus for economic growth in Hong Kong. We need to be able to nurture talents to support the country's development needs. And in this regard, I'd like the government officials to work harder, because according to university professors, the admission scheme of universities is basically affecting students' choice in the relevant subjects such as STEAM, chemistry, physics. Well, I'm not an expert in this regard, but I really like the government officials to look into the matter and come up with improvement measures. Because otherwise, if things remain status quo, we don't know when we will have sufficient manpower. We don't want a surplus either. This will create more social problems. All right, members, do we have other questions, comments? Mr. Chan Siu Hong. Chair, is there another item on AOB about our way forward? Yes, right. If there are no further questions, I thank the administration for coming. Next, any other business? We have scheduled 2 more meetings. The next meeting will be held on the 28th of March. We will be meeting with deputations as well as the administration, and we will be publishing an invitation on the LegCo's website to invite members of the public to write in or to come and express views on development of a smart city in Hong Kong. We will also send out invitations to the 18 district councils. The Secretariat will issue invites to members, and members do feel free to invite anyone that you know, any expert with knowledge in this regard, to attend the session and give their views. So that's for the next meeting. Any comments, Mr. Chan Siu-hong? Chairman, I strongly support this proposal. A public hearing should be held. Just last Saturday, we had the first public hearing on development planning works, planning lands and work amendment bill. It was very effective. We had deputations and stakeholders from different sectors expressing their views. We need to tap collective wisdom, so I strongly support a public hearing. All right, then after the next meeting, we will have one more meeting which will help us sum up our work, and then the government will also brief us on the Smart City 3.0 initiative and the implementation timetable. Members, please prepare to give views to the administration as to what you want to include in Smart City 3.0. Mr. Chan Siu-hong, time flies. We've had a lot of meetings, and I would say that our work has been fruitful. We've heard the administration explain about smart transport, smart economy. So we covered a lot of grounds, but then, as I've always said, we receive reports from the administration in these meetings. But it seems that there is a lack of a higher level steer in terms of the future development of a smart city. So we are seeing the tree, not the forest. We need to take things at a higher level, so that after mapping out the way forward, we can then work on the nitty-gritty. Chair, I'm concerned about the following. Secretary Sun Dong published the Hong Kong R&D Development Blueprint, which sets out the 4 development directions and 8 strategies. The 6th strategy is titled Expediting the Development of Digital Economy and Smart City in Hong Kong to Enhance the Quality of Life of Hong Kong People. So categorically, there is a mentioning of smart city, and then in 2017, there was a blueprint on smart city, and also the implementation of another blueprint in 2020. Now, I took a closer look at the Hong Kong I&T Development Blueprint, and on smart development, there are 5 recommendations. But I don't see anything about the Smart City 3.0 initiative. So I'd like the government to clarify the following. Does it mean that the government has decided not to go ahead with the Smart City 3.0 initiative and instead to replace it with the Hong Kong I&T Development Blueprint? If that is the case, then after the next public hearing, we should hear from the administration what the conclusion is, and the Secretary and the relevant policy bureau should be invited to explain to us the interplay between the Hong Kong I&T Development Blueprint as well as the Hong Kong Smart City 3.0 initiative. It seems to me that the Hong Kong I&T Development Blueprint is taken to a more macro level. It covers industrialization as well, whereas for Smart City initiative, we have things more related to the day-to-day living of our people, such as smart commuting, smart living, etc. So it's not about what the government would like to push ahead, but what the people want. What about what people want. For the time being, we haven't had a chance to discuss the formulation of Hong Kong Smart City 3.0 blueprint. So my first question is, do we have a Hong Kong Smart City 3.0 initiative? If so, when will the government roll it out? In 2017, the first blueprint was promulgated, and then 3 years down the road, the Smart City 2.0 was rolled out. And in order to enhance speed and efficiency, we should not wait for another 3 years. Well, Mr. Chan, I need to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. Oh, sorry, but I think this is an important discussion. Since we have held so many meetings, it is the subcommittee's job when we need to sum up our work to think about the following. We may need to vacate the slot to other subcommittee waiting to be set up. I'm quite anxious, in fact.
If we don't have the opportunity to extend the operation of this subcommittee, then the next meeting should be a public hearing, and the last one should be for the administration to explain to us whether the Hong Kong INT development blueprint is already covered or replaced Smart City 3.0. Yes, this is also my concern too. Members may recall that when we first set up the subcommittee, we had a rather aggressive plan. We would like to formulate Smart City 3.0 together with the administration. But so far, the administration has only been explaining to us what it has been doing, and so the members can have a full understanding of what's happening. So we have not dwelled into the development of Smart City 3.0, and of course there was also the change of government. So there may be a lack of continuity, and we still have subjects uncovered to cover. So we may have to join the queue again. Of course we will. And I agree with Mr. Chen. We should invite the Secretary to come back to discuss with us the timetable of Smart City 3.0 and whether the government is proceeding with that. And we can have the goals and targets, and hopefully the administration will listen to our comments. And if we are to continue the operation of the subcommittee, then we can explore this again. I believe the administration has already heard our comments, but then the Secretary, please summarize our discussion to the administration, and we want the Secretary to join the last meeting of this subcommittee. If we don't have any AOB, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.